That moment when you've been sitting on the couch for just a little too long
Oh, yeah.
and you finally stand up and your body makes a sound.
Right, like a subtle popping noise.
Yeah, not a loud, dramatic crack like you've broken something, just a small, subtle complaint. It's almost like your knees are suddenly sending you a very polite corporate email with the subject line, "Please move more."
I love that. And usually, I mean, the brain's immediate reply to that email is to just hit delete.
Exactly. You just sit back down.
Right, you sit back down and completely ignore the message. Because it is the absolute path of least resistance. Addressing it just feels like way too much work.
Which is exactly why today we are taking a full exploration into the language of movement. Welcome to the English Boost podcast, by the way. Our mission for this session is twofold.
And it's an important mission, honestly.
It really is. First, we want to explore the psychology of why we avoid movement. And second, we're going to upgrade your vocabulary so you can talk about your daily habits with natural, confident English.
Because we aren't looking at fitness textbooks today.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And we certainly aren't here to make you feel guilty for sitting on your couch.
That guilt is actually a massive part of the problem. The way we talk about fitness socially and culturally creates this enormous mental block.
Oh, absolutely. Before we even think about lacing up our shoes.
Right. We need to dismantle that block before we can even begin to talk about the physical reality. We have to strip away the intense intimidation factor of what a quote-unquote perfect workout is supposed to look like.
Let me just set the tone for you, the listener,
Yeah.
right now. You do not need to be an athlete to tune in to this session. If your body makes those small complaint noises, you are in the exact right place.
It's for all of us.
Yeah. So let's start with that psychological barrier. Why do we hate the concept of exercise before we even try?
Well, what's fascinating here is the societal pressure we've built around the mere idea of moving our bodies. We've constructed this incredibly narrow, really intimidating definition of what actually counts as exercise.
Yes, and we broadcast it everywhere.
Ex-
The extremes are so loud. I mean, whenever you open social media, the pressure is all about waking up at 5 a.m.
Ah, the 5 by AM club.
Right. And it's people wearing perfectly coordinated, spotless athletic wear, drinking these highly suspicious green things that look supposedly healthy, but let's be real, realistically taste like lawn clippings.
They definitely taste like grass.
Right. And I was reading some fascinating research on this earlier. It points out that when we only see the extreme before and after version of fitness, our brain does a very specific cost-benefit analysis.
Which rarely works out in our favor.
Exactly. We look at that and think, well, I don't have a perfect morning routine, and I don't like green sludge, so maybe I just won't start at all.
That is exactly where the brain gets paralyzed by the concept of thresholds. If we connect this to the bigger picture of human behavior, our brains are hardwired to conserve energy.
We want to do the easiest thing possible.
Right. So when exercise is framed as this rigid, monumental pursuit that requires an entire lifestyle overhaul, our brain immediately rejects it.
It's just too much.
It sees the gap between sitting comfortably in your living room and becoming a 5.0 AM fitness influencer as simply too vast to cross. The cognitive load of just starting feels insurmountable.
I was actually thinking about this gap,
Mhm.
and it hit me. Exercise has been marketed to us like a luxury lifestyle brand.
Oh, that's a really interesting way to put it.
Yeah, it's presented as exclusive, expensive, and requiring this total identity shift to even participate, when really it should be viewed as basic daily maintenance. Think about brushing your teeth.
Okay, brushing your teeth.
You don't put on special moisture-wicking gear to brush your teeth. You don't film a time lapse of it for the internet.
At least I hope not.
Right, you just do it because your teeth physically need it to not fall out.
That is a brilliant analogy. Imagine if we treated dental hygiene the way we treat fitness.
It would be exhausting.
It would. Imagine thinking, well, I didn't brush my teeth for 3 days, so today I'm going to brush them for 4 hours straight to make up for it.
That sounds completely absurd.
But that is exactly how people approach their bodies. We need to contrast that luxury brand fitness with normal, gentle movement. Things like a 10-minute walk around the block.
Or just taking a moment to stretch your back after you've been sitting over a keyboard for 5 hours.
Exactly. Or taking the stairs instead of the elevator without acting like you're training for an alpine expedition.
Even doing some terrible dancing in your living room while making dinner. I read something recently that explicitly argued bad dancing still counts as exercise,
I love that.
which is incredibly validating for me personally. But let me push back on this a little bit, because even with that lower bar, there is still a very real struggle.
Oh, for sure.
Sometimes just putting on your shoes feels like a major life decision. The real mountain you have to climb isn't the workout itself. The hardest step is literally just opening the front door.
Yeah, before a walk, it can feel like someone is asking you to cross a frozen tundra.
Exactly. Why is that so hard?
Well, you're talking about the friction of starting. And that
Mhm.
friction is very real. It's not just a lack of willpower, you know. Transitioning from a state of rest to a state of exertion requires a massive neurological gear shift.
Okay, so how do we trick our brains into making that shift?
Here's the psychological trick. Instead of aiming to complete a workout, aim to just feel less stuck.
Less stuck. I like that.
Yeah, that specific phrase completely removes the friction. It's a low-pressure, highly achievable goal. It whispers to your brain, we aren't doing a dramatic, sweaty fitness overhaul right now. We are just returning some blood flow to our body.
That shift from working out to getting unstuck completely changes the physical reality of moving. And if we're going to communicate effectively in English about this, we need the precise vocabulary to match these physical experiences.
We really do.
So let's look at the baseline reality of modern life through a very specific word, and that word is sedentary.
Sedentary is a crucial word to understand, both linguistically and physiologically. It describes a lifestyle or a routine that involves a lot of sitting and very little physical activity.
Right.
It comes from the Latin word meaning to sit, and it is essentially the defining characteristic of modern office life.
It's really the pipeline of modern existence. Think about it. You sit at your kitchen table to eat breakfast. You sit in your car to commute.
You sit at your desk for 8 hours to work.
Exactly. You sit in your car again, and then you get home totally exhausted, and you sit on the sofa as a reward. We spend roughly 16 hours a day folded in half like a laptop.
Folded in half like a laptop, that's painfully accurate.
And then we wonder why our bodies feel so stiff.
Which leads directly into the consequences of that lifestyle, encapsulated by another vital concept: mobility.
Now, how is mobility different from flexibility?
That's a great question. Flexibility is just how far you can stretch a muscle, but mobility refers to how actively and easily your joints can move through their full range of motion.
So it's more functional.
Exactly. It's your ability to bend, twist, turn, and reach comfortably in your daily life.
This is where I had a really harsh reality check recently. When you're a kid, you just move. You sit cross-legged on the floor, you jump up without using your hands, you sprint across the yard, and it's completely thoughtless.
You don't even plan it.
Right. But as we age, and as our daily routines become more deeply sedentary, our joints literally forget how to hinge properly. That mobility drops.
And it sneaks up on you.
It really does. Suddenly you find yourself sitting on the floor wrapping a present or playing with a pet. And you realize you need a full, tactical, multi-step strategy just to get back up to a standing position.
Yes. You have to start planning the physics of standing up.
I do. I'm like, okay, let me roll to my side first.
You look for a piece of furniture to grab onto. You calculate the load-bearing capacity of your left knee. I mean, it becomes an engineering problem.
It truly is an engineering problem.
And that sudden, jarring realization of lost mobility is what often triggers people to panic. They suddenly decide overnight that they need to get into shape.
Which usually ends badly.
It does, which brings us to a very dangerous phase. The vast difference between the words exertion and overdoing it.
Oh, the danger of sudden unearned motivation. Okay, I was reading this hilarious but deeply painful anecdote about a guy who experienced this exact panic.
Let's hear it.
So he decides to go to the gym after a 3-year break. He is completely fired up, running on pure adrenaline and, well, guilt.
Uh-huh.
And he decides to do absolutely everything.
Everything.
The treadmill, the free weights, the squat rack. He even starts using those mystery machines in the corner with all the cables and pulleys that look like medieval torture devices.
Even though he has no idea what they do.
Exactly. He has no clue. But he uses them anyway.
And medically, we know exactly how that story ends. The next morning, the adrenaline is gone. He tries to get out of bed, and his muscle fibers simply say no.
They go on strike.
They absolutely go on strike. The localized inflammation is so high, he can barely walk down the stairs. He completely overdid it.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because this raises a big question for me about how we process this culturally. Do you think our lack of nuanced English vocabulary makes us default to these extreme behaviors?
What do you mean by that?
Like, If we don't have the words to describe the middle ground, do we assume we only have two settings, either completely sedentary or totally exhausted?
Hmm.
We seem to forget that there is a word for just normal, healthy effort, which is exertion.
That is a very sharp observation. The language we use actively limits or expands our understanding of an experience.
Right.
Exertion just means physical effort. It means your heart beats a little faster, your breathing deepens, your muscles are engaged. Exertion is a healthy, necessary biological function.
But people don't use that word enough.
No, because people often lack that middle ground vocabulary. They jump straight from sedentary to punishing themselves. Knowing the word exertion and understanding that appropriate physical effort doesn't mean pain actually protects us from overdoing it.
It completely changes the dynamic. It stops being a transaction and starts being a dialogue. I love this idea I came across recently, that exercise should really be a conversation with your body, not a punishment.
And a conversation requires listening, which most of us don't do when we exercise.
We really don't.
Your body is constantly providing real-time feedback during exertion. It might say, I'm feeling a little tired, or my heart rate is good, I can do more, or, very importantly, that joint angle is wrong, please don't do that again.
Yeah, that sharp pain is definitely a message.
Right. If you are treating the gym as a punishment for what you ate yesterday, you ignore those messages. You push through the pain until you overdo it and injure yourself. But if you treat movement as basic maintenance, you listen, you adjust.
Okay, but let's say you do listen. You are doing everything right. You start moving gently, you are engaged in healthy exertion, you avoid overdoing it.
Sounds like a great start.
It is. But then you inevitably face the next massive psychological hurdle. What happens when your progress suddenly just stops?
Yes. Now we are moving from the mechanics of starting to the mechanics of continuing. That brings us to two incredibly important concepts: endurance and the plateau.
Let's tackle endurance first, because the misunderstanding around this word causes so much misery.
It really does.
I know someone who decided they were going to become a quote-unquote running person. They bought the $200 shoes, they spent an hour curating the perfect upbeat playlist.
They stepped out the door feeling like an Olympian.
Exactly, and then they sprinted way too fast for exactly 4 minutes.
Yeah.
4 heroic, breathless minutes.
Uh-huh.
Then they collapsed on a park bench, completely exhausted, and questioned all their life choices.
It's the classic trap of mismatched pacing. That is what happens when motivation runs much faster than endurance.
Right, because endurance takes time.
Exactly. Endurance isn't something you can summon in a single day through sheer willpower or dramatic effort. Endurance is the physical and mental capacity to keep going for an extended period, and it is strictly built through gradual accumulation.
So you have to start small.
Yes, you walk, then a week later you walk a little further, and eventually maybe you jog for a minute.
It's not about proving your worth on day one. It's about patiently training your cardiovascular system to handle sustained effort.
Exactly.
But here's the really frustrating part. Even when you do everything right and you build that endurance slowly and patiently, you eventually hit a wall. You hit a plateau.
Right. A plateau is a period where you are still putting in the exact same amount of work, you are still showing up consistently, but your visible progress stops.
The line on the graph basically just goes flat.
It flatlines. You don't feel like you are getting any faster or stronger or more flexible. It is an incredibly vulnerable time because your brain immediately starts whispering, I'm doing the work. Why am I not getting better? What is the point of this?
Here is where this conversation gets really interesting for our listeners. Because the exact same psychological and biological plateau happens in both physical fitness and in English language learning. The parallels are staggering.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a perfect dual meaning, and the underlying mechanics are nearly identical.
Right. Think about it. When you first start exercising, when you first start learning English, the progress is incredibly rapid.
You see gains every day.
Yeah, you learn 20 new vocabulary words in a week, and suddenly you can introduce yourself and order coffee. You feel amazing. The dopamine is flowing.
But it doesn't last forever.
No. Then comes the inevitable frustrating stall. You are still studying English every single day, but your fluency doesn't seem to be improving. You still get stuck on the same conjugations. You can hit a fitness plateau and a language plateau.
It's the same feeling of being stuck.
So how are we supposed to mentally survive this flat line without just throwing our hands up and quitting?
If we look at the deeper neurology of how human beings adapt, a plateau is actually deeply misunderstood. We culturally view a plateau as a failure. a sign that we aren't trying hard enough.
Yeah, we think we're doing something wrong.
But biologically, a plateau is just a quiet part of progress.
Wow. A quiet part of progress. I have to say, that framing feels like a massive relief. It sounds so much more forgiving.
It is forgiving, but more importantly, it's scientifically accurate. When you lift a weight or study a complex grammar rule for the first time, your brain and body are highly inefficient at processing that task. So it feels like a massive effort.
Right, it takes all your focus.
Exactly. A plateau simply means your body, or your brain, in the case of learning English, has successfully adjusted to the new baseline. It has built the synaptic pathways. It has made the process efficient.
So it's actually a good thing.
It's a great thing. It is solidifying the gains you've already made so you don't lose them. To survive this phase without quitting, you have to replace guilt with curiosity.
Curiosity over guilt. That is a massive paradigm shift because our default setting is almost always guilt.
Oh, absolutely.
We look in the mirror or we fumble a sentence in English and we say, I should be better at this. And then we just feel terrible about ourselves. But guilt is a terrible long-term motivator. It burns out quickly.
Exactly. Guilt might push you to the gym one time out of self-loathing, but it will never build a sustainable 10-year habit. Curiosity asks entirely different questions.
Like what?
Well, instead of saying, I'm lazy and I'm failing, curiosity asks, what kind of movement or what kind of learning do I actually enjoy right now?
Oh, I see.
Maybe you don't like the treadmill anymore, but you really enjoy swimming. Maybe you don't want to study dry grammar textbooks, but you really enjoy listening to an English discussion on a long walk.
Which is exactly what you're doing with us right now. It's about finding the frictionless method that fits your actual life.
Exactly.
And since we've established that fitness and language learning share these exact same hurdles, let's directly upgrade your English toolkit. We want you to be able to talk about these exact experiences naturally with native speakers.
Let's do it.
So let's look at how to upgrade textbook English into conversational English.
This is a vital transition because often the phrases we learn in a formal classroom setting technically make grammatical sense, but they sound incredibly stiff, robotic, or overly formal to a native speaker in a casual environment.
Exactly. I want to run through some specific examples. Let's start with a classic. A textbook might teach you to say, I do exercise sometimes.
Oh, yeah, I hear that one a lot.
Now, that is grammatically correct, but it sounds weirdly formal, almost robotic. The natural upgrade is to say, I try to stay active.
I try to stay active is a wonderful phrase because it removes the heavy, intimidating pressure of the word exercise.
It feels much broader.
It does. Staying active encompasses a whole spectrum of movement. Everything from lifting weights at a gym to simply walking your dog or gardening on the weekend. It feels much more conversational.
Okay, next upgrade. Instead of stating the obvious and saying, I am sitting all day, you can pull in our new vocabulary word and say, I have a pretty sedentary routine.
Oh, I like that one.
To me, that sounds so much more observant.
It really does. It shifts the tone from a simple complaint about your posture into an objective, slightly analytical observation about your lifestyle. It opens the door for a deeper conversation with whoever you're talking to.
Now, what about when things go wrong? A lot of English learners will try to describe muscle fatigue by saying, my body is paining.
Right.
But to a native speaker, the natural upgrade is to say, my muscles are sore.
This is a crucial distinction. Sore is the perfect, precise word here. Soreness implies that familiar, dull ache of exertion that we talked about earlier.
Right, it's expected.
Exactly. It means you worked hard. Saying my body is paining sounds alarming. It sounds like a medical emergency that might require an ambulance.
Right. Sore means you did some squats. Paining means your appendix might be bursting.
Exactly.
And what if you did have that sudden burst of 5:00 a.m. motivation and ruined your week by doing too much?
Yeah.
Instead of the clunky phrase, I did too much exercise, you simply say, I overdid it, or I pushed myself too hard.
Both of those phrases are excellent because they admit fault gently. They carry a sense of relatable regret without needing a long, complicated explanation of exactly which machines you used.
Finally, if you are stuck in that flat line we discussed, instead of saying the rigid phrase, my progress stopped, you say, I've hit a plateau.
I've hit a plateau. Perfect.
Now, I want to challenge you on this whole concept of upgrading for a second. Why do those original textbook phrases like, I do exercise, fail so badly in casual conversation? If they are perfectly grammatically correct, why do they build a wall between people?
That is the core of language learning right there. The reason is that natural English, especially when we are talking about sensitive personal topics like our bodies, our weight, or our daily habits, relies heavily on softer, more experiential language.
Experiential language. Can you break down exactly what that means in this context?
Absolutely. When you say, I do exercise, you are clinically stating a fact. It sounds like you are delivering a status report to your boss.
It's very transactional.
Exactly. It's transactional. But when you use experiential language and say, I try to stay active, you are sharing an intention. You are sharing a piece of your inner experience.
That makes a lot of sense.
Using softer, nuanced words like sore instead of paining or admitting I pushed myself too hard builds genuine human connection. It shows vulnerability.
It opens up the floor for the other person.
Right. When you use experiential language, it invites the other person to say, oh, me too. I overdid it last week as well. It's perfectly fine to tell someone, I struggle to stay consistent, rather than pretending you're a machine who loves doing burpees at dawn.
Because nobody is that machine.
No one. Honest, experiential language is always more engaging than clinical facts.
That completely reframes it for me. It's the difference between delivering a data spreadsheet and having a real conversation with a friend. It lowers the drawbridge. And honestly, nobody needs to pretend they love doing burpees.
Nobody loves burpees. Let's just be honest about that.
So as we wrap up today's exploration into the material, let's recap the core message we've pulled from all of this. When it comes to moving your body or improving your English, the best routine isn't the perfect, optimized, extreme one. The best routine is simply the repeatable one.
The repeatable one. That is the golden rule. If you hate the process, if it causes you pain or immense guilt, you will not repeat it. And consistency is the only thing that actually creates change.
Any movement counts. Small stretches while your coffee brews in the morning count.
Taking the stairs instead of the elevator counts.
That terrible dancing in your living room absolutely counts. As long as it's a gentle, consistent habit that your body can trust, rather than an extreme punishment your body fears.
True confidence doesn't come from completing one massive, exhausting 3-hour workout. It comes from many, many small promises kept to yourself over time.
I walked today.
I stretched today.
No.
And I spoke one new sentence today. That quiet consistency is how you build both physical endurance and linguistic fluency.
We really want you, the listener, to take this pressure-free mindset into your week. Apply it to moving your body and apply it to speaking English.
Try using the new experiential vocabulary.
Tell a friend I've hit a plateau or I'm trying to stay active. Don't be afraid to sound human. And don't be afraid to admit when you're struggling with the friction of starting.
It is that exact vulnerability and honesty that makes your English sound truly fluent, not grammatical perfection.
So what does this all mean for us outside the gym and outside the classroom? I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day.
A little food for thought.
Exactly. If language learning and physical fitness both rely so heavily on quiet, patient consistency rather than intense, dramatic bursts of effort, what other stressful areas of your life are you currently treating like an exhausting sprint when they really just need to be a daily, gentle 10-minute walk?
Wow, a fantastic question to reflect on.
Thank you so much for joining us for this session of the English Boost podcast. We hope you feel a little less stuck today. Now go shut this off, forget about the perfect gym clothes, and just go take a completely normal, non-dramatic walk. We'll catch you next time.